This is the second video in my 7-video series on the 7 modes of our major key. Our first video covered what our modes are and our very first mode, Ionian. This video is going to cover our second mode, which is called Dorian. All Dorian is starting that major scale, but on the second note. So instead of starting on Do, we're starting our major scale on Re. What that's going to give us is a completely different order of whole steps and half steps. It's going to give us a completely different scale. Whereas a major scale is a whole step, another whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step, right? Whole, half, whole, half. That's the order that gives us a major scale. If we start on the second note, that's going to be a completely different cycle of whole steps and half steps. So therefore, it's going to be a different scale. And also, we're going to get different chords from that scale. So we did our last video in relation to C major. We're going to stick with that same key this time. So now we're going to be playing D Dorian. The reason for that, the second note of C major is D. C, D, Do, Re. So this video is going to be talking about, in this case, D Dorian. So the notes that make up D Dorian are going to be this: D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then we get back to D, back to where we started. If we were singing that solfege in relationship to C being Do, that would give us this order of solfege: Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Re. Now, let's say that this first note, D, we're going to treat that as our root, okay? Let's see what this gives us now. We're going to mix up the solfege, and now this note D is going to be Do. This is what it would give us: Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Te, Do. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Te, Do. Well, if you notice, it's a minor scale because it has a minor third in there, Mi. Our third is what always dictates the kind of scale that we are playing, whether it's a major scale or a minor scale. If we have a major third, it's going to be some kind of major scale, and if we have a minor third, it's going to be some kind of minor scale. So we know that this is going to be a minor scale. But if you notice, it's slightly off from our regular minor scale. Our regular minor scale would be Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Te, Do. But this one goes Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Te, Do. So what's different is instead of having that minor sixth, La, we have a major sixth. We have La. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Te, Do. What that means is Dorian, our second mode, is a minor scale, but it has a raised sixth in it. So again, it's a minor scale, but it has a raised sixth. It's going to sound like this. Gives it a very interesting sound. Everyone has different ways of describing what they believe their 7 modes sound like to them. Everyone kind of comes up with sort of shorthand of what they believe those scales sound like to them. And I really encourage you to do the same. Go through and figure out, okay, what does this scale sound like to me? Just play around with it and get an idea of what that reminds you of. For me, I always think of Dorian as sort of halfway between major and minor. It sounds, it's a minor scale, obviously, because it has that minor third, but because it has that La in there, that major sixth, it sort of floats halfway between major and minor. We think of our minor scale as being sad sounding. Dorian, to me, is almost that intermediate sounding. It's not sad, it's not happy, it kind of floats somewhere in between. That's the way that I perceive Dorian when I hear it. Next, what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to look at the 7 chords that we can take out of D Dorian, okay? So if we start on our first note, we're going to go through the same process that we do with our major key or our minor key, where we keep a note, skip a note, keep a note, skip a note, keep a note, to get us 3-note triad. So for example, keep, skip, keep, skip, keep. We're going to do that for all of the notes in this scale. Keep, skip, keep, skip, keep. What that's going to give us is these 7 chords, these 7 triads. Our 1 chord is going to be a minor chord. Our 2 chord is going to be a minor chord. Our 3 chord is going to be a major chord. Our 4 chord is going to be a major chord. Our 5 chord is going to be a minor chord. Our 6 chord is going to be a diminished chord. And then our 7 chord is going to be a major chord. So what that gives us is minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. Now you might think, how do I remember that? It's a completely different order of major chords and minor chords and diminished chords. It kind of is. Again, if we go back to that clock face I was referencing in our previous video, instead of major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, it is the exact same cycle, only we are now starting on minor, right here, next to our what would be our 1 chord in a major key, the major one. So if we skip that first one, now it's that same cycle, but now it's minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. That's a good way of visualizing it, I think. It helps to keep everything straight. That would be our order of triads in Dorian. Let's look at the order of 7 chords that we can get out of Dorian. So it's the exact same process. Keep, skip, keep, skip, keep, skip, keep, right? We're gonna add one more, skip a note, keep a note, just like we do with our 7 chords, to figure out what kind of 7 chords we have in Dorian. So let's check that out. In Dorian, our 7 chords that we have as 7 chords are as follows. Minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished, and then major 7. So it is the exact same cycle as our major key, only now, again, we go back to that clock face, we've started on the next tick over. So instead of major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished, all we're doing is we're now starting here. Now it's going to be minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished, major 7, and then we'd get back to 1. So it's that same cycle. That is what's called Dorian. Dorian is our second mode of our major key. It's a really, really cool sounding mode. Again, for me, I always think of Dorian as halfway between major and minor. It has a really interesting sound in that regard, and there's all kinds of fun applications for it. That's also the order of triads and 7th chords that we get out of Dorian. I hope this was helpful. Stick around for the next lesson, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.